to people like me that was a generation behind him, because he was more hip. He used to wear a Martin Luther King medallion. That's where I got that from. And he used to wear a vest. I never saw him wear a suit and tie until about 1972. And he had a big afro. So he wasn't the style of the conservative preachers like Dr. King was. And he then was able to understand our generation of saying no justice, no peace, rather than I am somebody. And he was the bridge that would say, but let us get something done. And he would be there. So whether it was in the 70s and 80s where we were fighting around the issues of Howard Beach and Yusef Hawkins, which he came in and visited the funeral home with me at Yusef Hawkins, or then later in the 21st century, if it was Trayvon Martin, he came and stood with us. He would stand behind us as much as he would lead us, but he would stand behind us. I used to say he's leading from the back now, because he'd be there. And I think that he was never threatened by those older than him or younger than him. He just wanted us to keep our eyes on the prize.
And what about his commitment to peaceful protest and peaceful change at a time when there was a lot of violence? He
was adamant that we always keep nonviolence, because he said you're going to, first of all, he said you must have the moral standing that those we're fighting don't have. And if you become as immoral as them, not caring about life and the like, then you're not fighting a cause, you're fighting for who can have more power. So he definitely would always say that, and he would always say to me, if he heard I was getting ready to do something, Al, make sure that there is no violence. Make sure that you don't step outside of Dr. King's principles. And I think he also would always reprimand us about language, not only violence in terms of physical, but your language must communicate justice, not revenge. He was very, very hard on me about that.
Rev, good morning. What would you say to those in the media, elected officials, others who are efforting to define Jesse Jackson's legacy in depth by criticism, controversies that he had during his life, as opposed to the lifetime of accomplishments that you talked about briefly?
I think that there will be those that will raise the controversies, and they will raise some of the things that they would consider negative. But Reverend Jackson had a saying that he used to tell me that became something I lived by. He said, turn your scars into stars. And they can raise the controversies, but the fact that they've got to raise them at all means that he made his point. He made a fact. Nobody thought a kid born out of wedlock on Haney Street in South Carolina would be where he was. So sometime when you're climbing up steep mountains, you might slip and skid your knee. But the story is he climbed that mountain.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us. I wanted to ask if there was anything from the Reverend's legacy you hope the new generation in the Democratic Party, the civil rights movement, heed going forward.
I think that what I would hope they heed is that we continue to protect the right to vote, that we protect the Voting Rights Act, and that we protect the economic movements of not having an imbalance where the super rich get richer at the expense of the poor, and that we remain rainbow, multicultural, that we fight for immigration rights and civil rights, that we deal with policing and deal with vice. And I think that he represented that. We cannot take the rainbow out of the movement. We cannot take the nonviolence out, but we must protect the right to vote. Everything Dr. King and Reverend Jackson stood for is at risk right now. Supreme Court is weighing right now Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Right now we're seeing what's going on with ICE and deportation. So we have the challenge not to mourn Jesse Jackson, but we need to use our mornings, which is what we're going to do Saturday, to say there must be a movement. He would not want us to have sanctimonious mornings if we weren't going to get up and do the work.
Rev. Sharpton, so many speeches over the years, so many important quotes. Which one is the most significant to you, or the most person in terms of what you remember?
I think that his '84 Democratic Convention speech, "Our Time Has Come," was a classic because it gave us hope. I think that when he came back in '88, "Keep Hope Alive" was a classic. There's so many, but Reverend Jackson had, the last time he was at, time before last, when he was at the House of Justice, he had a book of sermons and that he had come out with. And that's when I knew he was stumbling and had Parkinson's. And I asked him to sign the book to me. He could only do the first J. And I keep that book at home, a book of all of his sermons. But he couldn't even sign his name, but he still came to Harlem to do what he could do.
Reverend Sharpton, one other question. In terms of his unfinished business around the economic justice issues like food insecurity, healthcare for people that he touched on at many points in his life, what do you say to that?
I say that we've got to keep fighting. We cannot make mockery with just mourning him and letting it go. And DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which has now been wiped out by this present administration, that was Jesse Jackson saying we've got to diversify boardrooms, diversify employment for blacks, for women, for browns, for LGBTQ. So we are seeing at a stage where everything he fought for is at risk. And if we want to mourn him, we've got to preserve what he fought for.
Thank you.
So what is the plan of action to defend voting rights?
Well, I think the plan has to be, how did we get voting rights in the first place? And that is mobilizing, marching, nonviolent protests. But the thing we have that they didn't have in '65, we have enough people in the Senate and the House to re-legislate if we come out and vote. If we come out in the right numbers, a member of National Action Network named Hakeem Jeffries will be the Speaker of the House and can call the hearings and find out what's really going on in ICE. So every time it looks hard to me, I think about how hard it was for Jesse when he was a student leader in North Carolina, how hard it was for Dr. King. We don't have a right to complain. They turned the country upside down, and they didn't even have social media. You know, Dr. King didn't know what a cell phone was, didn't know what TikTok is. We got all of these things to work with. Question is, are we going to work with them? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is Reverend Malcolm Bird, who pastors the church that we're at on Sunday. He's also COO of National Action Network.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we'll do it outside, because you can come down too now.
I'm all done with the